Hello there. My name is Bruce. From the name of this channel, you could probably tell what it's going to be about. You probably clicked this channel for a reason. Something about giants fascinate you. Uh, so this has been years in the making. I've always wanted to do this. I've always been what you would call a conspiracy theorist, right? Even though we don't like that name. The stigma behind it, I've always been into the mysteries of the world, right? So before I really get into it and I start off, before I get into the topics, so each episode is going to be about a different thing involving the giants, right? A different place in the world where there's accounts of this type of phenomena. Um, so with fundamentals, there's just something I established in my head that helps me see the big picture. Because in the end, we're not just talking about giants, we're talking about all sorts of cryptids around the world. We're going to be covering all sorts of subjects in order to help prove these giants. We're going to be talking about history. We're going to be talking about human civilization. We're going to be talking about archaeology, even before human history, maybe, or what we know of human history. We're going to be talking about all sorts of science, biology. I want to talk about genetics. That's very important. We're going to be talking about cryptids. Like I said, it's not just the giants, and perhaps they have something to do with Bigfoot, the Yeti, Sasquatch, whatever you call it, Yeti in Asia, the abominable snowman in Asia. In China, you got the Yezin, which is the wild men. Very interesting, you know. And I'll go through some of those briefly in this video, but each kind of topic will be its own video in the future. So these kind of fundamentals to me, they're almost like proven facts, but really I wouldn't say they're facts, but they're only facts because they're only not facts because mainstream science doesn't really accept it as credible, right? We're talking about the Smithsonian Institute, any type of popular science, uh, mainstream science, mainstream academia, what you learn in universities, a lot of that stuff, especially about human history, it's just not the complete picture, if not a total lie. And we'll get into all that. So, human history has been reset, perhaps multiple times. I don't know if you guys watch Randall Carlson. He appears on Joe Rogan, but I discovered him on Joe Rogan. I learned a lot of my stuff from Joe Rogan, but you look further into it and you do your own research. But Randall Carlson opened me up to a lot of information about our history, or what mainstream science would deem as prehistory or pre-human civilizations and stuff. But as all of us conspiracy theorists know, the human civilization, or what we call the human civilization, is much, much older than what we're taught in schools. Instead of being 10,000 years old, the beginning of human civilization, the hunter-gatherers, whatever, started farming. Instead of 10,000 years old, we're talking about, we're talking a million years old. We're going to be talking about Atlantis. It's a worldwide civilization, roughly from started a million years ago. I think it, sunk beneath the oceans or disappeared around 250,000 years ago or 200,000 years ago. And each one of these emergences, or the disappearance of these great civilizations, coincides with a natural phenomenon, a natural cataclysm. Uh, and if we lose our human civilization because an asteroid hits the Earth and volcanoes start erupting, the clouds become dark, plants die, animals die, we die. The it's raining, it's raining. Toxic toxic rain. When our civilization falls, uh, we lose a lot of our history, especially if, let's say, the powers that be. I hate using this word or using these terms. They, our governments or whatever, whoever runs our world. You can call them the Illuminati, whatever, the Freemasons, whoever's in charge, our governments, whoever's in charge of our schools, especially if they kind of cover certain things up. Well, that leads to us missing a lot of this puzzle of our human history, right? So I think the human civilization has been reset, and possibly many times. If you listen to Randall Carlson, you'll know that he always talks about the Younger Dryas extinction, roughly more than 10,000 years ago, roughly 10,000 years ago, where because of a natural phenomenon, whether an asteroid or whatever hits the Earth, and we have the Great Floods, which is talked about all over the Earth, which is my second point here. So these are the fundamentals on why I believe giants existed in human history, or perhaps even to this day. So the first one was that I think that human history's been reset and we've lost a lot of information. And the second point is that all this coincides with the Bible. I know that. I think to me, these are facts, but it's the way I look at it, right? Um, a lot of people look at mythology, and some of these mythology, it sounds so crazy, and we automatically debunk it. We all automatically think it's crazy talk, the stories in the Bible, mythology from all around the world, indigenous populations, the Hindu Vedic texts, ancient Chinese mythology. They all sound crazy. The Chinese say we're descended from dragons. Um, you know, but the Bible, it sounds crazy, but the Bible talks about giants. And then, they're the men of renown from the ancient days, from biblical days. For example, there's a story of David and Goliath. And David was just like a shepherd boy, not a big guy. Uses a sling, not like a slingshot, but a sling to protect his flock of sheep from wolves. That's what a shepherd does. Well, he defeated Goliath, who was a giant. And some of you may not know, but Goliath had four brothers, I believe. And at least one of them was way bigger than him. And there's a whole story in the Bible about his revenge on the Israelites. And that will be another video. And I know I'm mentioning the Bible now, and a lot of my sources will kind of come from the Bible. But I just wanted to say this is kind of a joke, but I'm not a young Earth creationist, right? I'm not a young Earth creationist. I know there's a lot of young Earth creationist YouTubers out there that talk about dinosaurs and talk about giants to help prove the point of religion. I don't have anything against religion. I don't think I have anything against Christianity, but that's not what this channel is about. The Bible might have a lot of truths in it, but I'm only trying to extract the truths. The Bible also talks about a great flood, and this is a phenomenon that happened all around the world. No matter what culture you talk to around the world, there's stories of the Great Flood. Once again, China, India, the Vedic texts, North American indigenous populations, they have so many tribes. A lot of their tribes have creation stories where they arrived on Turtle Island, or somehow, the animals created Turtle Island from mud, under the water. But it started off with a great flood. You know, people were, we human beings, we became refugees on this planet, right? When there's a great flood, we gotta seek higher ground, and because humans, we build our civilizations next to water, next to water sources for survival, right? Or the ley lines, energy, whatever. For whatever reason, we build our civilizations around water. And when water rises, because something happened, the great cataclysm, like the Younger Dryas, when the ocean levels rise, our civilizations sink and we have to move, you know? When the ice caps melt, when these glaciers from the Ice Age melted more than 10,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas, the ocean levels go up hundreds of feet. Just the ice melting from the northern hemisphere, from the North American continent, just that. What does Randall Carlson say? Right, there's like 500 meters of ice, half a kilometer of ice above our crust. So where we're living right now, whether you're in the northern states or you're in Canada, 10,000 years ago, there was a there was a half a kilometer of ice, more than half a kilometer of ice where you're sitting right now. So you would actually be sitting on half a kilometer ice. You would be 500 kilometers higher in the air. But what also happens when these glaciers melt is that is something called isostatic appreciation, and I believe that means the rising of the Earth itself because of the glaciers melting. Because the glaciers are so heavy and thick. Imagine half a kilometer ice, the glacier. When that melts, the Earth actually rises into the air like quite a bit, and that's called isostatic appreciation. I'm just kind of describing these floods to you and how catastrophic they are and how much they change our landscape and perhaps even the gene pools of whatever hominids are alive on Earth at that time. Because I believe with these stories of giants and uh, evidence of ancient hominids from all around the world, like long time ago there was Gigantopithecus in Asia, which a lot of people actually believe have something to do with the giants or Bigfoot or the Yeti, the Yez and whatever, whether that was a descendant from them or not, I don't know. But it was a big hominid. It was huge. It was the biggest one. Think about almost like